Where do you find authentic vintage alt clothing? Imagine walking into a space filled with stories, music, and history woven into every piece of clothing. That's what authentic vintage alt clothing is all about. It's not just fashion. It's a statement of rebellion and creativity from past decades. These pieces come from the 1970s through the 1990s and reflected scenes like punk, goth, emo, and rock. They tell stories of underground shows, legendary gigs, and DIY culture. Authentic vintage items often show signs of wear, like faded prints or frayed edges, which add to their character. To find these treasures, start with local thrift stores and vintage shops. These places often hide rare finds like band t-shirts from underground shows, patched denim jackets, or studded belts. Visiting stores in cities with a rich music history, like New York, Los Angeles, or London, can increase your chances of scoring something special. Look for shops that focus on vintage or have a dedicated section for alternative styles. Sometimes, you might find a leather jacket from the 80s or a pair of worn-in combat boots that have seen countless shows. Online marketplaces are another great option. Websites like eBay, Depop, and Etsy are packed with vintage alt clothing. Sellers often specify the era, condition, and history of each item. Pay attention to details like tags from brands that no longer exist or unique prints that scream vintage. Authentic pieces will often have minor flaws, like small tears or faded colors, which show they're the real deal. It's also helpful to search for specific items like band t-shirts from early tours or rare accessories. Specialty online stores dedicated to vintage and alternative fashion can also be useful. Some shops sell new clothes designed to look vintage, but others stock genuine vintage items or collaborate with collectors. These stores are perfect if you're just starting out and want to learn what to look for. They often have guides on identifying authentic vintage pieces and can help you build your collection. Music festivals and swap meets are fantastic places to find vintage alt clothing. Vendors at these events often sell vintage band merch and classic scene wear. Plus, they're great for meeting other fans and learning more about the history behind certain styles. You might find a rare tour shirt or a jacket from a legendary show, making your wardrobe even more meaningful. Don't forget about customizing your clothes. Making your own vintage-inspired pieces by adding patches, painting designs, or distressing fabric is a big part of scene fashion. Even if you don't find the perfect vintage item, creating something unique keeps the spirit of the scene alive and makes your style stand out. Connecting with online communities is also helpful. Social media groups, forums, and YouTube channels focused on alternative music and fashion share tips, trades, and leads on where to find vintage alt clothing. Engaging with these groups can help you spot fakes and find authentic pieces more easily. When shopping, always check labels, stitching, and fabric quality. Genuine vintage often has minor flaws that add to its charm. Be cautious of items labeled as vintage that are actually reproductions. For band merchandise, research the band's history to verify authenticity. Authentic vintage alt clothing connects you to the roots of the music you love and carries stories of the scenes that shape today's alternative culture. It takes patience and a keen, but the hunt is part of the fun. Start local, explore online, and don't be afraid to put your own spin on things. Your wardrobe will reflect your love for the scene and its history.